on MorningLine. Happy Halloween. Scary guy sitting here next to me, dressed as a sheriff, is Davidson County Sheriff Daron Hall. It's good to have him on this Halloween. Thanks for joining us. 737-7587 if you have a question for the sheriff. And as always, we have to start the program with his friend and mine, Joe. Good morning, Joe. How are you?
I was fine, Nick and Sheriff.
Good morning, Joe.
Just, good morning, Sheriff. Man, I hope you're the best sheriff. I've been around a long time. Seen a lot of them come and go. I remember Robert Kirshner very well.
Yeah.
But I want you to stay the sheriff as long as you want to be, you know, as long as you want to be a sheriff.
Well, I appreciate
that. You know, this thing that happened to Whitey Bulger, I will disagree with the sheriff a little bit on this. These prisons and certain prisons, even federal prisoners, they have, they know when somebody's coming a lot of times before they ever get there. They know their background. Whitey Bulger's big mistake was he was working with the FBI, and one of the FBI guy that he was working with, he grew up with, so they were friends. And they had him on the FBI payroll, plus he was still working the other side of the fence, doing some killings and things. So the one thing that mafia-type people have that they hate the most is a rat, somebody that will tell on you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so he got a bad rap, you know, from that. So this could be one of two things. It could be somebody that he did something to in the past, or it could have been just sending a message to anybody. Don't be telling stuff about what you're doing or what you know. But I'll tell you a little quick story right quick. To go to show you, this has been several years ago, and you know the case very well. I won't even get into who and what it was, but this guy got involved with the mafia a little bit, and they got him for jury tampering, and he went to Joliet, Illinois. And I knew this guy very well, and he told me he hadn't more got there real good, and the warden talked to him, and he had back trouble, so he gave him a job down on the dock, watching the other prisoners unload trucks. All he did was the paperwork. But he said as soon as he got up to the prisoners, said this guy, great big guy, noted being the toughest guy in the Joliet at the time, shook his hand and told him, said, Mr. So-and-so, said, look, son, I know who you are, what you did, know what kind of guy you are. Said, you probably shouldn't even be here. But, said, if anybody bothers you, or you need anything done, you just talk to me about it. Said, I'll take care of it. And said, the reason why is, I'm not going to leave here alive. I'm going to leave here dead anyway. So it doesn't make any difference to me if I have to take care of somebody else right here.
That's
so
right.
That's the way it goes. They got pretty good information.
Yep.
And you got, as good as well here, you got some state prisons that's you know, gives very little trouble, and you got some state prisons that give trouble all the time.
Yep.
So you got federal prisons the same way. I would say that the prison he was in Oklahoma, he was pretty well safe because he'd been there for quite a while.
Yep.
But I would say in the West Virginia prison, this ain't the first time this has happened in the West Virginia federal prison.
Yep.
Well, you wonder sometimes, and thanks, Joe. Yeah, just how much comes into this investigation. They're going to look into it. They have to. Could this have been arranged somehow?
Right.
Could there have been someone that's on the inside helping to facilitate this, you know?
Yeah, and Joe's right. He's right on always. And there's so many variations. I do believe, this is just an outsider, I believe it was done either at the ask of someone from the outside, or you know, a lot of these folks, you know, were sent to prison over information given by someone else. So I may be doing life sentence over something you snitched me out for.
That's what I was wondering. They were saying one of the people that went into cell was a mafia hitman that's serving time. Now, did he have anything to do with why, you know, did Bulger put him there?
Right.
And if that's the case, well, they should have been aware and said, like you said, if there's someone that's there that he has an association with one way or another, and you have to watch for this with high-profile inmates, you got to be aware of that, or at least keep them separate.
Yeah, and they would have asked him. They would have asked Bulger himself himself. What are your enemies in the system? Now, granted, you know, you can only protect him from who he tells you, but you would assume that he would know. Let's just say there were certain people. So, or it could have been a total, like I said, like Joe even referenced, it could be someone from the outside working to have someone take him out from the outside who, you know, who he felt like he betrayed him on. And it's you know, there's a culture inside the institutions. There just is, where, you know, there's a set of rules and laws that are a little different than what you and I may be used to, and but it's a challenge to keep people safe. I mean, you know, there's a lot of issues that are wrapped in these cases a lot of times, and it's a challenge to. I won't ever forget. Long time ago, I was working in classification where we would book people, and then we would assign you where to live. And so anyway, you came in, and so we score you out on this instrument we had, and you're a 7, you're going to be a medium custody, so we moved you to a certain floor, and that was my job. And so anyway, earlier in the day, or after that, I get back then we didn't have fancy things like we have now. I have a note written from a judge sent over to the jail that said, if Billy Jim Jones comes in, be sure to keep him away from Nick Barris. Well, there's no way for me to know that Billy Jim Jones, I don't have a system to say, tell me when he comes in. So time goes, and Billy Jim Jones comes in the next morning. And I wasn't on shift anymore, and so they put Billy Jim Jones with Nick Barris, and Nick Barris's face was the color of your shirt by the time he had to go to court the next day. And it was a drug deal where drug case where both were going to be testifying against each other, and but the system wasn't able to. I couldn't know when or if it ever was going to happen. We didn't have a system that would alert people. So
now you would have an alert, right? I mean, so that's one of the advantages of technology.
We can flag it, as we call it, that to not, you know. But one of the things that some of it's on the person, though. I mean, this was a judge telling me that really the individual should say, you need to keep me away from Nick Barris, because that's where all the information is collected. I'm not saying a judge wasn't truthful or honest, but it's on the individual to tell us who are your enemies. And back then we had to write all that on sheets of paper. Right. Today you put it in a system, and you would try to, you know, obviously code it where you would never put them together. But it's you know, it's a different world, and again, you know, you and I may have enemies in our life, or neighbors who are mad at us or whatever, but this is a little different. This is life or death sometimes, and they're, you know, they're in jail or prison or may face life because of what you've said about them, and so there's a lot of pent up resentment, you know.
No kidding. All right, let's take a call from Ann. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning.
Hey there.
Last month I asked Daron Hall, Sheriff Hall, a question about community oversight boards, and I respected his opinion on it. And so over the last month, I've spent a lot of time educating people in the community on what a community oversight board could or couldn't do. And in that process, I've sought out employees of the Sheriff's Department, specifically those that served warrants, because I felt that the climate affected those individuals that did that job, and I was interested in how they felt. And not surprisingly, they felt that the climate of today would be calmed with a civilian or a community oversight board, and those individuals felt they were in agreement with Amendment 1. And in that aspect, I would like to know how Sheriff Hall feels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great issue. I've been asked this a lot.
We'll let you answer this, and then we'll go to the break. But go ahead and answer.
Yeah, a lot of issues about it. I've been asked this several times. I think I said last time, I personally am not in favor of the amendment the way it's written.
Again, should we make it clear, though, that this oversight board will really not have much of an impact on you at all? This is really directly something that will be looking at the police department, not you. Yeah. But you're in law enforcement, so you're saying, and I guess, has the chief said one way or the other? I don't know that he has. I'm not sure, but I know that the Fraternal Order of Police is against it. Right. So your take, you don't like the idea of it. And again, voters are going to vote on it on November 6th, but go ahead. Yeah, and let me be real clear, let me qualify this. I don't want to be around if this happens. This isn't about Daron, what I'm about to say. It's not about today, but
My opinion is that if you're going to alter the charter that was written over 50 years ago, amend the charter to fix this issue of accountability in law enforcement, I think what you would do is you would roll the police department under the sheriff's office. It's a pretty simple situation. The state law requires that you elect a sheriff in every county. You have to. You can't change that. So you have to elect what is the chief law enforcement officer of every county. That's a requirement. There's no requirement to have a chief of police. Now, I'm not saying we don't have a good one. I'm not saying that it would change certain things. Here's the difference. There is accountability for this job. If you don't believe me, drive down the road with me. People tell me I drive too fast, I pay your salary, I elected you, I voted for you, I won't vote for you. I mean, it's a daily reminder of your life. I'm not saying Chief Anderson doesn't have some accountability, but what the voters and what the people are demanding is accountability by the public. Well, that's the best accountability you can have to me.
You get elected, they don't like you, they vote yeah.
Right, and we elect our DA, who has more authority than the chief of police or the sheriff or the mayor or the media. I mean, that's the most powerful position in the county, and you elect that person because it has accountability to the public. This job has accountability to the public. Now, the difference is the police department, as we all know, is a complicated set of issues that we're all talking about, shootings and body cameras and all that. I don't like the fact that the person who's in that job has to be worked through and is appointed by a mayor. I'm not against the mayor. It doesn't matter which mayor we're talking about. The point is, I don't think the public feel that they can hold the police chief accountable for what they want through a person who appointed them, who may have a totally different philosophy about law enforcement than the chief himself. And so most systems that have gone metro do it differently than we do. Some make the chief of police work underneath the sheriff. Some make, they break it in different places.
They don't make it so the chief is elected, do they?
Yes, there are places
they could elected. All right, but what you would maybe say is it could evolve someday where you would be the
and I don't want to, don't miss it. This is not Daron.
And
I don't want to be here to do
now. That's not going to happen anytime soon. It's not being suggested, but you've seen that elsewhere.
Yes, and I think there's even places in Denver, I believe, where they went to kind of a metro like we have, where the sheriff was taken out of what you would call direct street enforcement. And there's a lot of conversation. I've read some articles out there lately where the same thing is at question. The demand for accountability for what is an appointed police department, they're missing the accountability of the public. I don't think elections get it right all the time. I'm watching elections like everybody else. But I don't like that what we're doing here is going in and now putting an oversight board, which may be a good idea, may not. I'm not real interested in that part. What I do feel is that the public do not feel like they have accountability of the appointed chief of police, and therefore what happens is that is an appointment through a mayor who may have a totally different philosophy about how to operate the city. And to get your police chief addressed, you have to vote for a mayor, hope they appoint the person that you believe that you agree with, and then they apply the law the way you want them to.
And that's why this is going to the referendum, is that people are hungry to think that they have some control over this because they don't under the system you're saying. Look, we got to take a break on that note. It's interesting. We'll see how that vote works out. We'll be back with more of your phone calls, more of our conversation on this Halloween with the Sheriff.